Welcome back, everybody. I'm gonna be grinning through this whole little thing here. So, if you've read the title, you know what's up. Stick around. I'm excited. Alright, obviously from the title, I just, well, it's one of those things. Like, it wouldn't matter as far as, like, keeping it a secret. I had to say what it was ahead of time because I kind of knew what was coming. But this will be the first time I see it, mind you. It's one of those things. Like, you know what it is, but I've never actually held it or seen it with my own eyes. So, we're going to go into it and, yeah, let's experience this together. Okay, so if you follow my Instagram, you've seen I got this a little while ago. The big thing here is, well, my room's this big. My other rod is 7 foot, I think. Yeah, I think it's like a 7.2 or something like that. And that's why it sits like that, because I need to build a rack on this wall for my bigger rods, because if you can see, the ceiling in here from my rod stand is, it just so happens to be like 6'8" or something like that, because I believe this rod right here is 6'6", and that's what this is. It's a rod. I mean, it's one of those things, like you how am I gonna not, how are you not gonna know what that is? So I'm gonna, well, crap, I actually have to open that door in order to unbox this rod, so give me a second. Okay, so like I said, I gotta open this door just to unbox this thing, because I wasn't thinking at all. Well, I know the rod tube has to be at least 7 feet tall here, but I don't know actually how big this rod is. I ordered it or whatever a while ago, and I don't remember, so we're gonna see. Let me see. Should be able to pop this end off here. Yep. Very carefully do that with it. See, as you guys can see, it's still wrapped, so I've never even touched this rod. I can tell you right now from just feeling it, it feels ridiculously light. So it's got all these tabs of tape on here. I'm going to very carefully set it on here and take advantage of this doorway. Okay, so that fell off while I was doing the tape. Obviously that is the butt section. I have it pointed the right way. She's a big one. So I think I'm going to just do this. So I'm going to set it down here and go like this. Yep. Oh. It's a lot harder to do with one hand than you'd think. Well, there she is. This, if you guys don't know what this is a Tuned Up Customs Apex rod. This is a 7.2 light action. This is gonna be my new panfish weapon, and that's why I'm grinning, because I've always wanted a dedicated open water panfish rod, and yeah, now I got one. So let's take a closer look at this thing. Okay, so I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's really close to that door over there. I just wanted to show you guys a close-up of this craftsmanship on here. I mean, this is a rod that I've been wanting to get for a while now, and I'm very, very excited to have it. Like I said, I'm going over this with you guys, so if I'm too quiet or if I'm just kind of staring at it aimlessly, it's because I've been wanting to look at this thing for a while and see how she puts together. The big thing I'm going to do with this rod, like I stated, is I'm going to throw my panfish reel, my nice one, my Abu Garcia, Revo S10. It's the one I have it linked in the description. Everything's always linked in the description that I use. I will be linking Tuned Up Customs Rod's website in the description from now on, obviously, because this is another rod that I use. And I already use a lot of their stuff for winter, so it's one of those things, like, it was just kind of an inevitable thing to pick up a summer rod from them and see how it goes. From what I'm looking at right now, I mean, it's a good looking rod. We'll see. I mean, it's super light, so like, that's an automatic thing. One thing I like is the split grip on these things. I fish a lot with my, so like, you guys will see it throughout this open water season. I do a lot of casting for panfish. I do use slip bobbers a lot. I just made a couple videos about slip bobber fishing. Bobber fishing is one of those go-tos usually when you're pan fishing. Everybody understands it. It's pretty simple. But with this rod, a big thing I'm going to be doing is casting. And the reason I got the rod was for the specific purpose of the feel. The sight, it's got a nice light tip. I'm going to very carefully try and move this. Like I said, this is one of the rods I've wanted for a really long time, so I'm going to be very careful with this rod. But it's a light, so it's got a soft tip to it. So like when I'm crappie fishing and I'm casting, I can still look for that tip to load up. I still have to break this in and not feel like I'm going to break it. It's one of those things, like, you always want something and you get it, you just don't know how to treat it until you use it a few times. I've had other rods like that where I babied them for almost 2 years before I was like, alright, it's just a rod, use it. Not saying that I'm not going to use this rod, but here, I'm going to set it on the floor because there's room here, and I'm going to look over it with you guys and kind of just point out some of the things that I like about it so far that I see. Obviously, as I use it, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more because it'll be, you know, you guys know me. If you've been around for a while, or even if you're new here, what I do is I don't like to lie about products. So, sorry for anybody that thinks that, you know, you're going to look at me and go, hey, he's smitten with the rod, so of course he's going to say good things about it. I'm not going to say anything about it for fishing-wise until I use it for fishing. Right now, this is all visual, so let's look over it real quick.
Okay, so obviously I started with the split grip. It's got a inset reel seat, decent little collar set up to it. Like I said, the way this sits, so I like these hook keepers. A lot of people don't like hook keepers, but I do. The way it sits on here is you can fish with your pinky on here. So the reel would be here. You'd put your pinky back here and like your trigger finger up here by where the reel sits in order to feel the bite through the rod itself. Or I put my finger right here, or sometimes I'll put it right on the edge of the reel seat, just like that when I'm fishing. And that's another way I feel the rod. But as far as rods go, I mean, it looks pretty standard. These are little hand-done custom wraps that they do. You can get these in any size, by the way. This doesn't. You don't have to get a 7.2 or whatever. It's just the light action that I was looking for. So, I mean, that's the rod in a nutshell. For the most part, it looks like a good panfish rod. The hardest thing to say is, will it be good?
Okay, so obviously going over it here in my house isn't going to be a completely comprehensive thing to really get an understanding of how well this works for what I need it to. But once I'm on the water, if I forget to, you guys can yell at me. Just yell at me in the comments. But if I forget to, remind me. Like, you guys want to hear about how this is actually working when I'm using it, not just before and after. I'm still working on that, and like I said, it's one of those things. I want to get better at describing things to you guys so that you can go out and do the same thing. The biggest thing I always had a hard time with growing up with, here, I'm going to set this over here real quick. The hardest thing I grew up around fishing was somebody telling me the truth about a product, or were they just trying to sell it to me? And the biggest thing I hate, I really hate it. So you know, if you understand this, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Like if I this is my Panfish reel. This is an Advocate 2 500 ultralight series. It's an old Mitchell, for instance. So like I wouldn't have a problem sticking this reel, this cheap reel that everybody, when I posted me fixing it up for the season, was saying, why wouldn't you just buy a new one? Why wouldn't you just replace that thing? It's junk. Why would you keep... Because I take care of my stuff, and honestly, as old as this thing is, it does what it needs to do. It's got a good drag system. It's light. It's pretty tight. I mean, it's got some looseness to it. It's a couple years old. I mean, 5, 6, 7 years old. It's been beat up real bad. But, I mean, you guys want to go out and buy a reel? Well, they don't make this reel anymore specifically. They make a RZT or something like that is what Mitchell replaced this with. But it's still the same internals. It's still the same kind of frame. But for, I think it's like $35, you can go to like Lakeside Bait and Tackle in Delavan. That's a place where I get all my stuff. But you can go in there and get one of these from him for like, I don't know, $35. Well, for $35, you guys can have a nice, rod and reel setup. And it's like, why would I try to tell you got to go spend $500 on a reel when, this is good. This is good. So that's what I'm trying to get to as far as like explaining things to you guys. I want to be, when I use my JB Lures stuff, it's like, it works. It's good. It's a good product. Why wouldn't I tell you guys, about it? I want to help you. So that's a big thing I'm going to do from now on, is really just try and help everybody get more fish using a good product and cutting down the learning curve on the bad ones, because obviously there's a lot of stuff out there that's pretty much a gimmick. But if it catches fish, I'm going to tell you about it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's little rod unboxing. Well, technically it was an untubing, but the big thing here is I'm looking forward to using that rod a lot this season. You'll see all the different techniques that I've been I tried to convey them last year, but it's really hard when you don't have the proper rod setup. That's the time where you actually need to get like a good setup and put things together is for a specific type of, not pattern, well yeah, pattern kind of, or methodology of fishing. It's the easiest way for me to say it, but hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, and obviously if you're not new here, you know what's up, but if you are new here, please just remember to